reopen this meeting, and I would like to ask the candidate and his seconds to stand in front of the table. The Doctorate Board of Eindhoven University of Technology, represented by us, has examined your dissertation and heard your defense. On the grounds of the aforementioned, the Doctorate Board has decided to award you the degree of doctor. I request that the first promoter acquit himself of the duties entrusted to him.
Uit kracht van de bevoegdheid ons toegekend door de wet en namens het college van promoties bevorder ik u, Mustafa Umit Arabou, tot dokter en verleen ik u de rechten die verbonden zijn aan de dokterstitel. Ten bewijze hiervan overhandig ik u het diploma, ondertekend door de rector magnificus, de promotoren en de leden van de commissie. Van harte gefeliciteerd. Oké, take it, it's yours. Ik geef het woord graag over aan de co-promotor Richard voor de laudatie. Gaat u zitten.
Wel, edel, zeer geleerde dokter-ingenieur Arabou, highly esteemed Dr. Arabou, dear Umit, it's a great honor for me to be the first to address you with this new title, your title. I want to congratulate you with the obtained PhD, and in these congratulations I also want to include your wife, Mehmet, your friends and colleagues who are all here, and also your parents and family in Turkey, who are with us today in our thoughts because they couldn't make the journey at this time. Our journey started in 2013. The European Union decided in all their wisdom to grant us a large project on photoacoustic imaging, full phase. And the idea was to develop a new handheld photoacoustic device. Marcel and I were involved in this project together, thanks to the project leader Peter Brans, who asked us to work on preclinical validation of photoacoustic imaging for cardiovascular applications. A completely new endeavor for our group, a new field of research, and to be honest, initially also slightly out of our comfort zone. We started looking for PhD students. We of course have many talented master students around, but at that time no one was suitable for this complicated and also experimental project. And after sifting through stacks and stacks of letters, searching and searching, we come to this letter and resume of a young Turkish researcher who worked on photoacoustic imaging during his master project in Turkey. It was a perfect fit because we even performed imaging on biological tissue. To be more specific, horse hairs, black horse hairs. Perfect absorbers. After our first Skype, I remember Marcel making his signature hand slap on the desk, gesture like that, saying, "Die moeten we. That's the one." And I fully agreed. We had another meeting, and then we were absolutely sure. And so it was search and find. And that is, of course, also the translation of your family name, Arabou, search and find. Or, in short, Dr. Google. Today, you have your doctor's title, and I now explained to everyone here what it means, your family name. So I hope that everyone will call you Dr. Google from now on. The whole concept of search and find also illustrates, I guess, the project and the way we started this project. In the beginning, we were searching a lot. It was all new for us. It took a lot of time, but in the end, we found answers, you found answers, solutions, engineering solutions, and we all found our way. You had an unmistakably large role in that. Your knowledge of photoacoustics and engineering skills have been pivotal in the introduction of these techniques in our lab, as also Marcel mentioned, and also the developments that we made. During your PhD project, you are of course limited by the equipment built by the consortium, and that led to a lot of frustration sometimes. But you searched, you found solutions, and whether it was in terms of optics, acoustics, phantoms, histology, you could do the task. We will never forget the engineering solution that you found to automatically make pictures of plaques while they were being cut by an automatic cutting machine. A camera stand, a remote control, a ballpoint pen, and a roll of duct tape. I remember that Marcel and I were joking and said, he's not a scientist, he's MacGyver. So we called this setup the MacGyver setup from that point onwards. In the end, your work also, to give you all the credits, laid the foundation for the CDEN project that's currently ongoing, because the images in the project proposal were yours. This was also granted and succeeded the full face project. I honestly have to admit that it was risky to baptize our new lab Pulse with a very prominent P in front, which stands for photoacoustics. Would this be a research line or just a temporary thing? Thank you for your efforts, because the acronym is now, I guess, stable and will remain like this and permanent. And we have in fact a nice new dedicated photoacoustics lab that's nearing completion as we speak. And I know that you would have loved to play with the high-end laser that we have now during your PhD, but that's life. The theme of Search and Find is also a red thread through every conference or consortium trip we ever made. I see a lot of people starting to laugh. As most of you probably know, Umut likes to venture out a lot. He's very curious and very easily distracted by things in his vicinity. As soon as we reach the city, an airport, train station, marketplace, sightseeing, whatever conference venue, we would lose Umut within minutes. The most used line referred to Umut without any doubt is, "Where is Umut?" So there was a lot of search involved when we were on these trips, and every time we would lose him. And then when we were looking, he would just pop up somewhere, or he would be standing right behind you, or he was already in the hotel sleeping. The ultimate "where is Umut" thing occurred during our last trip to Washington. Umut had lost his passport, and he reported it missing. So when he asked for a new passport, he asked for a passport with the same passport number, because then he did not have to reply for his Dutch visa. And that would, and I quote, save him a lot of trouble. However, can you imagine what happens when you scan your passport at USA Customs and this message pops up on screen saying, "This passport was reported missing or stolen." So while we were waiting for Umut near the luggage belts, a heavily armed US Customs official stepped up and said, "Please follow us, sir. We would like to have a word with you." And then he was ushered into a small office somewhere remote and we couldn't see him anymore. 2 hours later, we finally hailed a cab and we were on our way to the hotel. But as you can see, we always managed to find him, and thank you for not sneaking out during the recess. Despite the fact that we were always wondering where is Umut, these trips were always very enjoyable. Umut was always there making pictures. He's an excellent photographer. He was famous for being very serious, even a little bit quiet at times, and then out of the blue would make the most hilarious joke, always to the point. A great tour guide, a great navigator, and always knows to find good restaurants, a trait that we have in common and regularly enjoyed together. Although you like to be on your own, and you're a lot more serious than most of your office companions, you are very social and you blended in perfectly. Of course, you were the senior member, or as they called you, senior citizen of the office. For a long time, you're also the only married PhD student in the office. And that you are very social, you have a lot of friends, then can cause troubles because you wanted to have a very intimate and very small wedding. So Marcel and I obviously were not invited because there was no room among those other 500 guests that you did invite for us. I'm joking, there were 600 guests. You went to Dutch lessons, you took part in typical Dutch customs like eating vlaai, going to the borrel, playing tafelvoetbal, and you also participated in November, although I'm starting to doubt whether you understand how that actually works. And you also became an active member of the Turkish community here in Eindhoven and are involved in many activities, including helping your wife organizing cinematic events. Umut is also known for another skill, which is his unbelievably high developed resistance to stress. I don't think I ever saw a glimpse of stress in Umut's eyes during his PhD until the last week before handing in his thesis. That was the only time. He would normally wing it right up to the point that the deadline would almost pass. I think all your IEEE iOS abstracts were handed in at 11 o'clock at night, so 1 hour before deadline, leaving me with 30 minutes to respond and you with another 30 minutes to revise and upload. But you always delivered, and for the last 3 years in a row, I was told by certain people who are not allowed to tell me, but I will not mention their names, but they're sitting over there. I heard that your abstracts, all the abstracts we submitted as a group, were always ranked the highest in iOS, which is a heavy review process and something to be proud of. And you also won the Master Poster Award, although I think your office rigged the competition a little bit. In a good way. Although you're a very gentle and friendly person, you also have a bit of a dark side. Because I would like to refer to an Artemino conference in Sweden. There was a mistake with the room arrangements. So your research twin, Maarten, and you were separated. And that was, of course, unacceptable. Maarten tried to get the stranger out of his room, but the guy wouldn't move. So he said, I'll fix it, and you went to your room. A very nice former PhD student was sitting behind his laptop saying, hello, I am whatever his name was. And you responded, you have to go. Now. And without any resistance, he went instantly. So the comparison to Tony Montana has been made ever since. Nowadays, you fortunately can channel this strictness a lot better with your weekly tango lessons with Demet. As a team, Frans, Marcel and I would like to thank all the people involved in the Full Phases event consortium, in particular Peter Frans, who made it all happen. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us at the last moment today. He sends you his congratulations. Many thanks to Celine Kanaal and Olivier Raboot-Pontel, Peter Zeloet, Martin Frens, Niels Steenberg, and of course Georg Slutzer, who's even here with us today. And Mark van Zandbeek, whose ongoing efforts in the clinic make these exciting medical engineering projects possible to us here in a beautiful department of biomedical engineering at the TUE. And I just heard in the discussion behind closed doors that there was another celebration today because you're the 25th PhD student of France as a first promoter. In case anyone is wondering, where is UMIT or where will UMIT be from now on? Well, you are now MacGyvering at ASML, or as we like to call it, the Bermuda Triangle for engineers. So we are going to lose you. You're leaving science, but you've started a very promising career in industry with many inventions to follow, no doubt. UMIT, again, congratulations with this well-deserved PhD and the best of luck in the future. Please don't forget about us and drop by once in a while, and we wish you all the best.
I would like to also congratulate you on behalf of the University of Eindhoven. I also have to use some serious words to you because the scientific degree involves duties as well as right. Scientific degree of PhD. As a holder of this degree, you are committed to standards of scientific integrity, trustworthiness, intellectual honesty, openness, and independence. These standards are described in more detail in the Netherlands Code of Conduct for Scientific Practice and in the Eindhoven Code derived from it. You also have duties towards society. You must be clear about the boundaries of your own expertise, and you must communicate honestly and independently about the results of your work, including potential risks associated with it. You are committed to the ethical codes for research and design involving human subjects or animals. Strong words, but anyway, I would like to ask you to sit in the audience again.